Hi there, how are you? Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah.
Whoa, hold on. We're starting with the shot on you. This is Query and Schultz, guys. Yeah, there we go.
They told me to start over.
No. Let's start this over. We kind of started with just the shot on Jake, and that's not Query and Schultz. All right, let's go. Let's run open again. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Go ahead.
No. You still start the show.
No, you
but
said you
it's
wanna
got to
be
be
part
a
of it.
wide shot of both of us. Greetings, Query and Schultz. Okay,
But you said you want to be a part of this.
It's me.
So
Greg's pointing at me.
Yeah, so that means go. Talk.
Okay.
Get what you wish for.
Greetings, South. Wait, hold on. Greg's coming in.
As much as people like seeing Jake, they'd like to hear him as well.
Oh, you don't even have your mic.
There
See,
you go. Merry Christmas.
let's start the whole thing over.
You're in charge of all this stuff.
We'll get all this in post. All right?
We
We'll
don't
do it live.
We don't have a post.
We'll do it. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hi there, how are you? Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah. My name is Jake Query.
Hi, I'm Derek Schultz.
And this is Query and Schultz, presented by Bailey and Wood, and seen right here on the ISC Sports Network as we are set for the home stretch of the NFL season. And who would have guessed the Colts are in playoff contention and may win the division, Derek?
It's on the table. It's on the table.
There's a
also,
lot on the table.
Going 10-7 and missing the playoffs entirely is on the table, which you wouldn't have said a couple of weeks ago. So it is a very, very interesting situation that the Colts find themselves in. Look, let's get this one out of the way. They had to win that game against the Steelers, right?
Correct.
So
And the
we're not.
Steelers look terrible.
Yeah, we're not going to recap that game. It happened on Saturday. Might as well have happened 2 months ago. And by this point, it's already been digested. They were down 13-0, scored 30 straight. I thought Gardner Minshew played maybe his best game in a Colts uniform so far. They had to get that one. Now, when you look at these final 3 games with the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Texans, the game of those 3 that you also kind of put in the must-have category, it appears, is the Houston game.
Of course, yeah.
Because of, you're bumping up against them for playoff positioning. But, Jake, even with all of those scenarios in play, you couldn't have possibly not signed up for this in August, right? The Colts are in good position in the sense that they don't need help. They control their own destiny. If they win out, they might even win the division, and that would have been considered a pipe dream back in August.
If they win out, they need a single Jacksonville loss, and they are the AFC South champions.
Yeah, but Jacksonville's finishing stretch is not good. They just played 2 tough games, and their last 3 games are easy.
Hold on. Jacksonville has a quarterback in the concussion protocol.
True.
Who already has an ankle injury, whose leading receiver is done for the year, at least unless they go to the Super Bowl. And they still have to play Tennessee at Tennessee to finish things off. That's tricky, right?
Tennessee's been fighting on their way out, even though that's not a good football team. And I think the good thing that you say about the Colts is that, unlike virtually everybody else, they really have avoided the bad loss. You know what I mean? Like, their losses have all been defensible. Twice to Jacksonville. Right. The Saints, who are okay. Bengals are certainly okay. Browns are okay. Who am I missing out of the losses?
Everybody in the league,
Rams.
Derek.
Rams are fine.
Derek, everybody in the league is okay, except for like 3 teams that suck and 3 teams that are
but
great.
they've avoided, like, they haven't lost to New England, Arizona, the Giants,
they've
teams like that.
They've beaten the teams that by all account they were expected to beat.
And let's face it, even with their record being what it is, Pittsburgh is one of the 5 or 6 worst teams in the league right now, I would say. I mean,
they're not very good.
They can't do anything, and especially without, and not that Kenny Pickett is any good, but especially with a backup quarterback.
Here's the other thing that has come into play for the Colts, and I'm taking nothing away from what you're talking about. They've done a great job, right? Or a very good job. They also have gotten. Do you remember, Derek, the year? And I can't remember which specific season it was.
So hit me with it. I'm good at this. If it's 21st century, I'm good with it.
I don't think that it was the Andrew Luck rookie year, Reggie Wayne, incredible season. But there was one of those years with the Colts around then. Maybe it was the Luck rookie year with Bruce Arians and that group. But literally everything went their way in terms of the opponent each week. It was like every Wednesday we're doing the show and we're like, oh my gosh, the starting quarterback, linebacker, and running back of Miami's out this week. And just everything fell into play for them.
Yeah, the 2012 team went 9-1 in games decided by 1 score, which you usually hope to split that.
Right.
So they did. I think that's probably who you're thinking of.
And And they also got every break. Every ball bounced their way.
Yeah. The 2012 team, and I think Rake and everybody would agree that the 2012 team was a 7-9 team that went 11-5.
Right.
Basically.
Well, okay, so this year, Derek, again, the Colts have taken care of business in the games they need to take care of, and kudos to them for that. But they've also gotten some help. This week, we now know they're going to face not Desmond Ridder, who's been the starter for the majority of the year for Atlanta, but actually they're going to face a guy that beat them last year in Washington, or 2 years ago. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
Last year. That was the Sam Ehlinger game.
Taylor
remember?
Heineke.
Yeah.
I always want to say Tyler, but it's Taylor Heineke, right?
Yeah, it does sound like it would be a Tyler. Yeah. And the Falcons just lost to a horrible Panthers team. So
in front of 1,200 people.
Yeah, you're right that the Colts have had a knack for either playing a bad team, a team coming off a loss to a bad team, or both.
Or an average team with a bad quarterback.
Yeah, and there have been a lot of bad quarterbacks that they face. I mean, I think what hurts, this discussion is that you look at the Colts schedule and you're like, well, everybody that they've played pretty much sucks outside of Baltimore. But you look around the rest of the NFL and everyone kind of sucks. Right?
That's what I said.
So, who are the true contenders?
Right.
I mean, I think Buffalo is a lot better than what their record says. So and there are teams like the Steelers who are a lot worse than what their record says. But I think overall, this year just lacks really good teams. I'm at the point now, Jake, where if somebody outside of San Francisco came out of the NFC, I would be floored. That looks like a one-team conference right now. And the AFC, you can talk me into any of the 7 teams that make the playoffs in the AFC can go to the Super Bowl. Any of them.
San Francisco, so you're chalking Philly and Dallas out?
I don't think.
How about Dallas?
Philadelphia. Dallas hasn't won a game with stakes in 30 years. I know that that's maybe simplistic because what does this year's team have to do with the 2011 team? But I can't trust Dallas in a big spot.
You know one thing I've noticed I've never noticed before? In your mustache, you've got one little sliver of gray.
I've got a lot of slivers of gray.
Well, but here's the thing. It might be time to either shave or dye it. And I don't condone the dyeing aspect, but it looks like you've got a runny nose.
I think what happens is this light that's right above me just hits the silver right here. Split out.
But it looks like you've got, looks like you need a clean.
Blast it out.
It's kind of gross.
I don't know what your problem is. Clearly my nose is not running.
I know, but it looks like it.
Okay.
And it's kind of freaking me out.
Well, your face looks stupid, so I don't bring that up on the show.
I mean, it might look stupid, but it looks hygienic, right?
I just
it doesn't look like I'm just walking around. You know what I mean? You're like a party favor over there.
We're having a good conversation about the Colts and the playoffs and things like that, so I would like to keep that going forward here. So I'm going to let that one slide a little bit. In fact, we can get that in post too. 3, 2, 1. We're gonna have to do a lot of editing today, which I always hate handing off all the editing to people. Colts playoff odds at 58%. They're now, as you mentioned, the division, a 4-1 shot. That's not bad. I mean, 25% isn't good, but it's not bad.
Look, I don't understand. I don't believe in the statistical. Right now, this team has a 92% chance of winning this game. What does that mean?
They did have that in 2021, and they lost.
Exactly.
They had a 90% chance to make the playoffs, and they lost.
That's what I just don't. I've never understood that.
It's just probability.
There's 2 minutes to go in the game, and UNLV has an 89% chance of winning this game. Does that mean that in this exact scenario, there were 100 preceding games exactly like it, and 89 times that team won?
Have you ever watched a weather forecast?
But again,
it's probability. They take the data that they have, and then
based on what?
Based on the data, and then the
data of what?
The data of the season that has been played to this point, and who these teams are.
Okay.
You don't agree?
Why do they play the games?
You don't agree? Oh, okay, so
why do they play the games?
So hear me out. So the Panthers playing the Niners right now, you would say is a 50-50 shot. It's a 50. Panthers have a 50% chance to win, and the Niners have a 50% chance to win. Of course, you wouldn't say that. Based on who they are, the Niners have probably a 75%, 80% chance to win that game.
You're guesstimating.
No, I'm not guesstimating. Yes, of course it's an estimate, but it's based on real data, real hard data and info. Based on what we know about those teams.
So the data and info says that if the Colts and Jaguars play in the postseason, the Colts have a 0% chance of winning.
No, not 0.
0, because they played twice this year and they've won 0.
No, but it's
so
not.
The probability
it's
says
not,
0%.
No. It's not. It's never.
The data
it's
would
never
say that.
0.
But the data would say that if the Colts and Jaguars play, it's a 0%.
Purdue Fairleigh Dickinson's not even a 0. There's no 0 in sports.
What was Purdue Fairleigh Dickinson?
The chances of Purdue winning?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Probably 98%.
What happened?
They lost.
Okay.
It
So
happens. It happens. I mean, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like these things.
Derek,
things happen.
That was
you're
the
taking
Russians.
Polling and probability and data, and you're trying to predict what's about to happen. Okay. That's all.
I don't believe
Based on your genes, there was probably an 85% chance that you'd have a near fatal heart attack.
95.
Now you ended up having it, but there was still a 15% chance that you wouldn't have it. You'd be fine.
You were pulling for the odds, weren't you?
It would have cost me major money. So no, I was rooting for you. Yeah, because keeping this alive helped us.
So did you just admit the probability is 0 that your career would continue without me?
Here's the thing.
I think you did.
No. That's not what I said.
Can we put that up there?
There's a 0% chance that that's what I said.
No, you just said that your money was on the line of me surviving, and that had I died, your career dies with it.
Since
That's
we're doing
exactly what you just said.
Percentages and probabilities, I'll explain another concept to you.
Okay.
It's called brand equity. Mm-hmm. This has brand equity.
Right. And
people want
does
this.
Not, right?
People want this.
That
so
does.
This is a
not
brand
so
too.
much.
This is a brand too, but this also has brand equity. So keeping that together and building upon that instead of starting from a lesser point, I didn't want to do that. I want to start all over again. I mean, I could have built the kingdom back up and been king in my own castle and not had to share the throne, but this is fine for
Bailey
me.
and Wood ain't presenting that. I can tell you
At this
that.
point in my life, this is fine for me.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
So the probability is that 82% that the Colts win the division if they win all 3. Actually, if they win 3 of their games and Jacksonville loses 1, it's a 100% they win the division.
It really
100%.
stinks. It stinks that the Bengals were dead to rights against the Vikings. Look, the Texans were outplayed that entire game by Tennessee, and they came back and won.
That's why the statistical probability stuff is bunk, because both of those games with 2 minutes to go are like 98%.
It's not bunk, though. You want to look at it as a black and white thing. It's not black and white. There's no such thing as guarantees when it comes to this stuff. You just have to try to.
But to formulate those stats, you are factoring in what you assume to be guarantees.
No, I don't assume to be guarantees. It's not an assumption, Jake, to say that the 49ers are a better team than the Panthers. That is a fact. But that doesn't mean that they're going to win. If they play 100 times, that doesn't mean that the Niners are going to beat the Panthers all 100 times.
Now, here are the games remaining that are important to the Indianapolis Colts, okay? This week's games that you are scoreboard watching if you're a Colts fan. I'm looking at my phone, yes, because it helps me here.
Texans-Browns are this week, right?
Houston hosting Cleveland.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Pittsburgh hosting Cincinnati. The Chargers hosting Buffalo. The Broncos hosting New England. And Tampa hosting Jacksonville.
Broncos took a bad loss. That's about the only good thing that happened to the Colts last weekend.
Okay, now I'm going to read off for you of those games, and then we're going to do the statistical probability.
I don't know why you're hung up on this.
This is assuming, of course, the Colts beat Atlanta.
Yeah.
Houston and Cleveland. Who do you think will win that game?
Cleveland, but you would want Houston to win.
Understood.
We're
going with who Derek thinks will win the game.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Who do you think will win that game?
Cincinnati, but you want Pittsburgh to win.
Okay. The Rams and Buffalo. Who do you think will win that game?
With how they're playing right now, I'd say Buffalo.
Okay. The Broncos and Patriots. Who wins that game?
I would hope Denver beats New England. God.
Okay. And Tampa and the Jaguars.
I have no idea what to think of Tampa. A very, very soft lean towards Jacksonville.
Okay, that would
very soft.
If those games all go as you just said, that puts the Colts' playoff chances at 55%.
Well, yeah, because I said the first 2 games you want the other team to win, right? So that's still taking into account the teams that the Colts don't want to win winning. But still, 55%, Jake, is good. What's weird is that this Falcons game, because it's an NFC opponent, if you're going to lose one, this is the one to lose. If the Colts still beat the Texans but lose this game to the Falcons, they very likely are in the playoffs.
Right.
A lot really comes down to that Houston game in week 18, which is crazy to think that last year that was a battle for, the two worst teams in the league.
Here's my one concern, Derek. All the kidding aside, okay, it's been a great year for the Colts, and it's exceeded expectation. It's been great comparative to what we thought it was going to be going in. My one area of concern, and I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I'm always like a caution realist, right? Mm-hmm. And you tell me if this is me being way too Jake, okay? My one area of concern would be the following. They've had a very good year. They've exceeded expectation, and they're going to get into the postseason most likely. However, that elevates, and yes, it's probably only 2 games or whatever it might be, but it does change their schedule a little bit for next year. It puts them on a radar, and then you take Anthony Richardson and you make the one change at the quarterback position because we know the keys are going to be handed over to him. Is there a concern for you, Derek, that you're then starting all over again and that you are back to your original timeline of building piece by piece with a young quarterback and taking your lumps, but doing so now in a situation that has a greater expectation, microscope, and tougher schedule for him?
Yeah, I'm concerned that all of this is happening while he's on the sideline. That's a concern because this year was supposed to be about getting him reps, and he's not getting the reps that you need from him. But I'm not concerned about winning. I'm never concerned. Are you concerned that the Colts are maybe a little bit ahead of schedule and went 10-7? No, I'll never be concerned about that or ramping up the schedule or anything like that. What I'll say is that we will eventually, and probably next year because of this season, we're going to get back to the point in this town where there are real expectations attached to this team. And the last couple of times that there have been real expectations attached to this team, really the last 10 years that there have been real expectations attached, the Colts have flopped. The Colts' best seasons have come when we have left them for dead. The 2012 season that you mentioned, this season, and even 2018. Now going into 2018, I think people were optimistic luck was coming back. They started 1-5, remember?
Yeah.
Everyone left them for dead, and then they ripped off that run. They finished 8-1, I think, to end the season. The best seasons come when there aren't expectations attached. So if you're putting a gun to my head and saying, give me something you're concerned about, that is something that I'm concerned about. There's just... that's all of Indianapolis sports, Jake. There's just something about Purdue, Indiana, Colts, Pacers. When you attach real expectations to any of those teams, more often than not, they flop. When you don't have any expectations, you're like, hey, this could be a fun season.
And it also makes it more fun, right?
They do great. Right. It's a weird phenomenon here in this town.
By the way, we would be remiss if we didn't get to this, and we'll continue the Colts conversation. We'll talk Pacers as well, but since we last spoke with you, which was, of course, 1 week ago from this taping, which is on Tuesday, Indiana has lost 2 sports icons, 2 basketball icons throughout the state of Indiana. One in which, of course, was rooted here in Indiana and blossomed in Indiana. The other in which well represented Indiana while moving onward. We'll begin with George McGinnis, who was born in the state of Alabama, and as a young person, his father, as part of the African-American migration to the north, if you will, was going to Chicago to interview for a blue-collar job when he stopped in Indianapolis to stay with family on his way on the drive. And that serendipitously allowed him to meet the foreman of a construction group that was helping build, among other things, the Eli Lilly headquarters in downtown Indianapolis. And George McGinnis' father was hired, and thus George, his mother, and his sister moved to Indianapolis along with their father. Yeah,
I had never heard that before.
Which is,
wow.
Yep. And so George McGinnis became the 1969 Indiana Mr. Basketball for Indianapolis, Washington. He led them to a 31-0 season, just the second undefeated season in Indianapolis since Crispus Attucks, the second from Crispus Attucks being the first, I should say. And went on to a magnificent career, Derek. He was a great player at Indiana University for 1 year, the largest scoring average in IU history at 30 points per game, the only player to average 30 for the Hoosiers before he went to the ABA and was drafted. His rights were drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers after winning championships in the ABA with the Pacers, then went on to the 76ers where he went into the NBA Finals along with Julius Erving. He was a first-team All-NBA performer. George McGinnis, of course, passed away earlier this week. Actually, I guess it would have been, the end of last week, technically speaking. But since we've last talked, he was a gentle giant. George McGinnis is one of those, Derek, that, his playing career was essentially over by the time I was really watching basketball. Yeah. But if you grew up in Indianapolis, he would come and speak to schools. My sister actually told me a story about, George McGinnis coming to Lawrence Central, where she was a teacher, and she said he came in with Jim Harbaugh, and the two of them were speaking to the kids there, and she was like, McGinnis could immediately recognize just the kids that he was talking to were very similar to the upbringing he had, and so she said he was very vulnerable, and he talked about some of the decisions that he had made as a younger person and not saving money and then having to go and get his education to create his own business, which he did and was successful with. And she was like, he was truly great with those kids and connected with them. And anybody that you talk to that knew George McGinnis will tell you just what a wonderful person he was, above what a great basketball player he was. The same can be said for Eric Montross. And Montross is somebody that was a year older than I, started his high school career at Park Tudor before transferring to Lawrence North, where he teamed up with Todd Leary, Todd Richards, Damon Watts, Victor Bush. They won the 1989 Indiana State Championship. And he became, along with Damon Bailey, kind of 1 in 1A, Derek, in that class of 1990 recruiting class. And Indiana, as a late signee, got Todd Leary. And most people assumed that they were getting Leary to try to lure Montross to Bloomington. Eric Montross's father, coincidentally enough, I guess you would say, was part of, as a legal team, the lawsuit involving Landon Turner and the Ford Motor Company after Landon Turner's car accident. That was his introduction to Bob Knight. There were a lot of rumors about how that affected Scott Montross's relationship with Bob Knight, although those rumors have never necessarily been completely founded or verified. But either way, Eric Montross selected the University of North Carolina, and people here went crazy over it. And he became public enemy number one to a great extent. He already was to me because I was at North Central and he was at Lawrence North, and you naturally dislike your rival. He went to North Carolina, had a great career, won a national championship, entered the NBA, played a long time in the NBA, and as I had mentioned yesterday actually, he was the first person to me, Derek, that set the example that because you think you know somebody as an athlete does not mean that you know them as a player. Because I didn't like Eric Montross for the reasons that I spelled out there. But in knowing many people that did know him, and mutual friends, acquaintances, etc., I've never heard anybody say anything other than the fact that he was literally the finest walking example of a human that you could ask for. A very good teammate, a very good son, a very good basketball player, and just a guy that worked hard and never really caused any strife with anybody. Just a good person all the way around. And he passed away after a 9-month battle with cancer and was a massive part of the University of North Carolina family, still working in their radio he was their commentator on their basketball broadcasts. So North Carolina was the right decision for him, and it worked out, and he had basically now two families, the North Carolina family and that of being a legend in Indiana. So condolences as well to Eric Montross, his friends and family as well.
Yeah, Montross was just kind of one of those guys that left and never came back, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even know how many people immediately associated him with Indiana or knew that he went to LN and all of that outside of, people that are in our age bracket and followed the NBA back in that time. But he was a lottery pick. He was a national champion.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic player. And obviously it's just so sad. I mean, God, 52 years old. Jeez. And, being a former athlete, he kept himself in great shape. Because
totally.
I saw him when he came to Bloomington he was on the radio team when they played in one of the Big Ten ACC challenges. I saw him in the media room, and he looked like he could still play.
Yeah.
This is 6, 7, 8, whatever years ago. For George McGinnis, forget basketball, and you could certainly put him up near the top of the list in basketball. If you're just talking about the greatest athletes, like if you were to invent a sport with that ladder, that pole, and that stool, George McGinnis would be first team All-American in that sport.
Correct. He's a great football player as well.
He was an incredible athlete ahead of his time. Physically, he was unbelievable. It's sad. It's sad that both of these seemingly happened rapidly, right? I mean, a 9-month cancer battle, it just went downhill right away for Eric Montross, and then one day, George McGinnis has a medical episode, and then he's not with us anymore. So, of course, it's very, very sad, and it's sad that now you add it to Mel Daniels and Slick Leonard and all happening in the last 7, 8, 9 years. I'm just glad that the timing worked out where the ABA recognition ball started rolling.
I agree with that.
Before Slick and George and those guys. At least they were here to get the recognition that they so richly deserved.
Yeah, I mean, it is odd to think Roger Brown, Mel Daniels, George McGinnis, Slick,
Yeah.
And I'll put Robin Miller in that group because he was the guy that was kind of the glue that put them all together.
You think of the ABA Pacers, you think of Robin Miller.
Yeah.
And he never played a single, he never dribbled a basketball.
Right.
So, it's hard, and you think about his family and all the people that knew him and all the people that he impacted. But he leaves behind such an amazing legacy. We'll be talking about George McGinnis for years and years in this town.
You're right. No question. By the way, I noticed you didn't bring any sandwiches.
So, I had a little bit of an issue today. My wife needed gas in her car. You don't know this because you're not married. One of the big responsibilities of a husband, besides being a provider and a caretaker and all of that, is putting gas in your wife's car. You have to do that. It's part of the contract that you sign up for. So this morning, it's like 7:15 in the morning. I got to get James to school. She's on rotation, so she's not there. And I'm like, all right, I got to put gas in Ashley's car too.
Derek, no more Philomatanki. The donger need food. Where's the sandwich?
Okay, I don't know what that is. So I put all of the gear, my backpack and the sandwich and the beers in her car. I went to get gas. I remember to take my backpack out, but I left the bag with the beers in the back of her car. So I took my car up here to do the show, and I realized, I got my computers, I got my gear, but I don't have the food. So the hoagie was going to be, which I'll end up going home and having later today.
I'm going to write this down.
The hoagie was going to be the pit twist, which is, you hear maybe Rake in the background give a loud expletive there because this is his favorite one. D&W Black Forest ham, Prove, mayo, house slaw, and chips. And the chili water brew of the week was supposed to be Santeria. I just wanted a Mexican lager, like a summer beer to warm us up a little bit, but of course we're not going to have the opportunity to do that. The good news, Jake, is I saw Santa at Hoagies and Hops the other day.
I did too, and I asked him for lunch on Tuesday.
Do we have the picture of me and Santa? No? Okay, we're waiting on it. Because there's a picture of me with Santa.
It must be
Hoagies
with your
and Hops.
sandwich, Derek.
No, I think this is one. I think this is one that we actually will end up having. But Santa made the visit.
It's great. Hoagies and Hops is great. Look, they had
Absolutely.
Santa there. That was Santa there, yet another example of fundraising. I mean, they're always giving back, right?
The food pantry at Boulevard, right across the street, St. Vincent de Paul, that one that's right on the other corner of 42nd and Boulevard. They did a food drive there. I dropped off a bunch of cornbread, which is my favorite. And I saw the boxes were just stacked. So they did a great job of getting the funds there. And it was a fun night. They opened up briefly for Monday night because the Eagles got flexed to Monday Night Football. Unfortunately for them, a loss. But Christina and Maddie and Alexis and Donnie and the whole crew over there, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to them. They've been great partners of ours, but friends too.
We should also wish a Merry Christmas to Bailey and Wood, Derek.
Absolutely. 855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com.
Slower so people
855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com. In fact, Mike already down in Florida for the holidays, which is a good choice considering it was like 20 degrees.
And
when I warmed up my car this morning.
And he might be rooting for the AFC number 1 overall seed, right?
Yeah, it's
Baltimore, the front runner there, but
the AFC's weird. AFC's weird. There are a couple of matchups that I really wouldn't want the Colts to get in a matchup with Miami because you saw what Cincinnati did to them, and I think the Dolphins would do the same thing because they have, Waddle and Hill and those guys, and the Colts, what's their biggest weakness? Defensive secondary, right? So that's one team that I really don't want to see.
I don't think you have to say defensive secondary. I think just secondary covers it.
Okay, great. You've been real nitpicky today. My mustache.
I'm a perfectionist.
Defensive secondary.
No sandwich.
Grammar.
I'm hungry.
No.
What happens when I get hangry?
You've been mean to me a little bit. You've been mean to me. Karma. Well, not really karma. I guess Indiana didn't do anything to deserve Kansas coming all the way back. Lady Luck. How about that? Lady Luck was not on IU's side late in the game against number 2 Kansas. Purdue didn't need any luck at all. A really impressive showing against a very, very good Arizona team. We'll talk about both of those things and the Pacers' continued defensive struggles. When we return, it's Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Morgan, give it a snap.
Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey and Wood presents Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network, alongside Jake Query.
You were quicker to grab that re-entry than you were lunch.
I know. Usually I'm mid-bite right now, so my mouth, it's like Pavlov's dog where it's like I have the saliva is expecting like a bunch of meats and cheeses.
It's frozen in your mustache. That's the problem.
Sauces.
It's disgusting.
And it's not getting any of that, so it's just
You at least look good with Santa
feels
here.
weird. Yeah. That's good. I told Santa what I wanted for Christmas and got my candy cane. I have no off switch with candy canes. And
Really?
you get a little bit of curly curls in there, little Christmas curls. Christmas black curly curls.
There are times, I'm not going to lie to you. Is this our last show of the year?
Yeah. No. Last show before Christmas. We're going to do one. Well, wait, yeah. Yeah, last show of the year, yes. Right? What's today, the 19th? Yeah, last show of the year, yes. Sorry, go ahead. We'll get that in post. 3, 2, 1, go.
I can't believe that I've made it through 2023, hypothetically. And that the resume is now going to say that this show continues into 24, that God willing, we're here in a couple of weeks. I've made it.
Oh, yeah, we're not going anywhere.
I've made it, speaking of statistics, 92% of the way through the year here without snapping. But I'm kind of at my breaking point.
Because of black curlies? Because of my chest hair?
If you could take two of the actual dark hairs from your chest and put them in your mustache so it doesn't look like you got a snot rocket, that'd be awesome. Okay. If you could
Well, I don't
bring
want to pull
lunch-
them out because it would be painful. I did trim it a little bit. I put the razor on 4.
Can you let me know when we're done here?
I put the razor on 4 and I trimmed it a little bit. Actually it took me like 40 minutes. And then I made sure to do it over the sink, but I plugged the sink because I didn't want to clog the drain. And then pulled out the little balls of the remaining hairs. But it'll grow back pretty quick. It's winter, so my coat usually comes in the winter. My winter coat. It's nice. Let's talk IU and Purdue.
You're the most foul person I know.
Do you want to start Boilers or you want to start Hoosiers?
Look,
Which one do you want to start with? I'll leave it up to you.
I'm just going to pretend I'm not even looking at the backdrop.
All right.
I'm doing this right here.
Look at yeah.
Okay.
La 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 la.
Okay. I've never been
Purdue,
more prepared.
beat number 1 for the first time since 2000. Ironically, the last time they did it was also against Arizona, which I don't remember at all. Do you remember the Brian Cardinal team beating number 1 Arizona?
I don't, actually.
Yeah. Do you remember? Rake, you remember freaking everything. I don't remember that. Now, I remember that team going to the Elite Eight. That was like Gene Katie's last team that made it.
Are we done with the background?
Yeah, okay. The background's done. I have no recollection. I'm assuming that was like.
It's a nice hat.
Was it Alaska or one of those preseason tournaments? It was here? Oh, wow. So it was here. How ironic. That's really funny that it was in Indy and it was Arizona. I was there. I could not believe how many Arizona fans were there. It was crazy.
Now, what were the Arizona fans like?
Awesome. Really nice people. They were cold.
Because I talked to Todd Meyer, our and he was a big Purdue fan.
Yeah, he was there.
Not the former Indiana basketball player Todd Meyer, the executive producer of the fan Todd Meyer. And he's like, Arizona fans are terrible. They were awful.
Wow, the ones that I talked to were really nice. Now, I was in a photo thing. We brought the Purdue Indy car out there for the solar eclipse that's happening in April. We're having a viewing party at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So I talked to a lot of Arizona fans, and they were all super nice. They were like happy to be there. They were into it. They were doing U of A chants. But the whole knock on Purdue was that they can't deal with athleticism and especially guards. Like Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer won't be able to handle really athletic guards. And really, Smith and Loyer dominated that game.
Right.
I mean, they dominated that game, especially the first 25 minutes. Now, Purdue went through a long drought, and the lead got down to 4, but you never really felt like the outcome was in doubt. Athletic, Arizona is an excellent defensive team. They are as athletic as all get out, and Purdue won that one going away. I get it with the March qualifiers and all that stuff,
Derek.
Jake, but how crazy is it that we're at the point where Purdue beats number 1, and you're just kind of like, Yeah.
Oh, I know. Listen,
Like, how crazy
the
is
resume they put together is unbelievable.
It's insane.
Between Alabama, Marquette, Gonzaga, Arizona,
Tennessee.
Xavier, Tennessee. I mean, incredible, right? I mean, they're barring a collapse, they're going to be the number 1 overall seed in the tournament again. They got great guard play, and that's their Achilles in these great athletic games is their guard play. And if those two play like that, they're going to be really tough to beat.
If they win, and you're assuming that they do, Jacksonville and Eastern Kentucky at Mackey, so they've played such a loaded non-conference schedule. But if they win those 2 games, they'll have wrapped up 3 straight undefeated non-conference seasons. That's 35 straight non-conference wins.
Not counting the tournament.
Non-conference regular season wins.
Right.
Sorry. Their last non-conference regular season loss was December of 2020 to Miami in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Like that stuff is usually reserved for Duke.
Right.
You know, North Carolina does that. And the fact that Purdue is now beating these programs, again, like March. I get it. I just don't want people to take what's happening right now for granted. Like, this is an incredible, incredible run that they're putting together here right now. They're number 1 again.
Right.
Again, they're number 1. So yeah, we'll see. They've got stuff that they've got to fix. I think they get tight offensively sometimes, and it's still somewhat difficult when teams really concentrate on taking Edey away and they're not living at the foul line. The offense is a little more difficult.
And you got to get outside shots at that point.
Yeah, and they did it. They did it on Saturday.
Here's another question about in college basketball. And I'm really going to take a swipe at Indiana here, at no fault of Indiana. But, and I realize Purdue beat Arizona, who was number 1. I get it. But Kansas was ranked 2nd, right? Mm-hmm. What does it say about Indiana and the reputation Indiana holds that for Kansas to be number 2, go on the road into Bloomington and beat Indiana and not have that be enough to move them up to 1 spot to number 1?
Yeah, I think it was just
to get jumped.
I think it was more about,
I get the quality of win. I get it.
I think it was more about how good Purdue looked against Arizona.
I get it.
They were clearly the better team for 90% of that game.
Purdue has the record, Derek. Do you know what Purdue did in 2023 more than any other team in the history of college basketball?
No.
4 times Purdue did this. In the 2023 calendar year, Purdue did something 4 times in the 2023 calendar year that is more than any team in the history of college basketball.
I don't know.
Lost as number 1.
Yeah.
Their 4 losses as a number 1 team in the 2023 calendar year are the most for any team. Now, the plus side of that is for that to happen to you, you got to be number 1.
Yeah, you got to be number 1, yeah.
And you got to stay at number 1 after a loss because you're that good,
yeah.
which happened to them as well. But they got a chance to add to that now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really hope this team is clearly better than last year's team, mostly because if Braden Smith is going to play like an All-American, then Purdue's in a whole different stratosphere. He's been, Fletcher Lawyer's been hit or miss, right? I mean, Fletcher Lawyer last week against Alabama went 0 for, I think, from the field.
Right.
So, he's been a little more helter-skelter, but Braden Smith has been consistently really good. And if he keeps that up, they're going to be tough.
And then you've got also just some athleticism on the wings that you didn't have before, right?
Yeah, Lance Jones, I think, adds some depth, and they're really good. Let's talk about IU. They led for 95% of that game. I was actually in my car listening to Fish driving downtown for the Purdue game, and IU's up 11. And when I got to the concourse at Gamebridge, they were down 2.
Yeah.
So I had to rewatch it to see what had happened.
Athleticism and length finally won out in the end.
And I know that
Warmed
people
down.
didn't like the officiating, maybe taking some of the air out of the ball. Trey Galloway was great. Had a basically a career day, but you get 3 bench points, and it just kind of goes back to what we've said about Indiana. They've got too many guys that give them nothing.
Derek, Indiana has a couple of players that are really good players. Khalil Ware is a very good player. Malik Renew is having a really nice year, and I've been hard on him, but Mackenzie Mbako is starting to show why he was so heavily recruited and anticipated. And it's starting. He didn't
been
just
good.
jump into it, but now you're starting to see it. Bottom line is, though, they need outside shooting, and Mbako might be able to give that to them, and Galloway at times can give it to him. Xavier Johnson, I know, is out. I think he's going to be out for a while still, but They need outside shooting. That's the bottom line. They just don't have enough depth at it. And they also, their substitution patterns are odd. Again, I mentioned last week, like with Mike Woodson, just when it's kind of the same thing after each game, it's not any fault of Mike Woodson's. But, when the picture comes out and is posted of Mike Woodson smoking a cigar and hanging out with his buddies in the basketball, or it might have been his house, I'm not sure which, an hour after a loss, I don't have a huge problem with it, but it's not a good look.
Yeah.
It's not a good look. That's the bottom line. And, they've got to kind of put things together here. I like the foundation they have, but there are still some question marks, and those question marks are outside shooting, substitution patterns, and just reliability. I think you know what you're going to get from Renew and Ware night in and night out. Galloway and Baco, you got to find some consistency there.
Yeah,
especially
and I
without
think
Johnson.
it's hard because we're having a conversation about Indiana post-Kansas, and there are some people that still think that Indiana should be measured against Kansas, and that's not how you measure Indiana.
Right.
It's not reality. It hasn't been reality for 30 years that they should be measured against Kansas. I thought it was a great effort, honestly. The crowd was lit up. Assembly Hall is a special place when it's lit like that. You got to, but you have to build this.
That's a
back up again.
passe term, right?
And so I think this
the
year
kids were lit.
is about making progress. If Indiana could just make the tournament, I think that's making progress. And then you stack those seasons on top of each other. That's one problem that Indiana's had. In the last 20 years, last 30 years, Indiana has had some successful seasons. 2002, right? 2002, they were great. 2012, they had a great season. 2016, they had a great season. You know what ends up happening after those great seasons? Splat. It's over.
What was
that's the problem with Indiana. Their level never comes up here.
Did you say 2012?
Yeah.
Was that that's the last time?
2013.
That was the last time kids used lit.
Yeah. Well, you're probably right. Sorry, that probably is a dated term. That's the one area where you might actually be right. So Indiana just needs to stack seasons on top of each other. But I like you said, Ware, Mbako, Renew. I like that core. Now, you can't just rely on having those guys for like 3 or 4 years because I don't think they're those types of players.
Right.
But that's at least something to build upon for future classes. But the problem is that you have to rely on Cups isn't ready to be a frontline player. He's just not. Trey Galloway had 28 points. I think ideally Trey Galloway is your heady senior that comes off the bench.
Correct. I'd agree with that.
But Indiana's in a situation where they don't have that luxury. They need Galloway and Cups and those guys to play major minutes right now. And this is the result that you get. Senior. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, at this point, he probably ideally is your Will Sheehy.
But
right?
he's kind of the type of player that great Indiana teams have had.
Oh, for sure.
And I there's stuff to like. Like I said something about Trey Galloway. Like if Trey Galloway is your third best player or whatever, your third most important player, then you're a bad team. Like I don't mean that in I know how that comes off. I still think Trey Galloway is very useful and a valuable player. It's just ideally he would be a complement.
He's more Steve Eil than he is Steve
he would
Alford,
be a complementary player instead of one that you're really relying on to kind of save.
That's a great line, by the way, that Indiana fans can relate to. He's more Steve Eil than Steve Alford.
Let's get to our Love That
You'd
Play.
have to be my age and really have followed Indiana.
Yeah, like I barely even understand that, and I'm 40. 353-2141, love-hvac.com for our friends at Love Heating and Cooling. It is
you know two guys that know when I say he's more Steve Eil than Steve Alford. Chris and John Love know.
Yeah, they probably know about that.
Totally.
I couldn't really find an example outside of Indiana.
Oh, I have a perfect Love That Play.
Okay, hit me.
How about the team that North Dakota State played over the weekend?
I don't know what you're talking about. North Dakota State. In what sport?
Basketball.
North Dakota State played a basketball game?
Derek, pull up ESPN.com and go to North Dakota State's basketball schedule. I should have actually had Rake pull this video because it's the greatest video ever.
Basketball.
We need to show this video because it's so fabulous. Who did they play? The most recent game.
The Illinois State Redbirds?
No. North Dakota State.
Yeah, this North Dakota State played the Illinois State Redbirds.
When?
Oh, they played Oak Hill.
Okay.
Oak
Hill Christian College.
Okay.
Yeah. Final score was?
Holy God, 108-14.
Now, can you pull up some of the stats from that game, please?
Oh, my God.
Can you pull up some of the stats?
Okay. Oak Hill Christian shot 12%. They were 1 of 20 from 3.
Yeah. How about this? That fella Coffee? Is there a guy there named Coffee, number 1?
Let's see. Coffee.
What were his numbers?
He actually made 3 baskets.
Okay. Out of how many?
He missed 11. Missed all 8 threes that he took, unfortunately for him. Let's see. For North Dakota State, he didn't really have any standouts here, but they hit 15 threes. That's not great. They out-rebounded them 59-14.
What was the turnover margin?
59-14.
How many turnovers?
23-12. Okay, so the turnover margin wasn't as bad. They had 17 steals, North Dakota State. That's your love that play? Somebody humiliating another team?
Derek, have you not seen the video?
No. I don't know what blowouts happen in college basketball. I don't even know what you're talking
about. Give me some play-by-play here.
All right. He's going to the hoop. He missed the layup badly. He dribbled that one off his foot. Okay, that's a backcourt violation. Let's see. This guy probably shouldn't be playing basketball. This one, pretty bad air ball. Oh, man, he's way out there. Steph Curry, another air ball. Who is this dude? He looks like Jarrett Jack, but he is not Jarrett Jack.
He's Jarrett Jack and
yeah,
shots.
That's rough.
Oh, man.
Rough. Okay, I love that play. Lance Jones hit a big 3 at about the 5-minute mark. Purdue offensively couldn't find themselves. Arizona had cut the lead to 4. There was a lot of tension in the building. Lance Jones hit that shot that I think allowed Purdue to exhale. And they had went, I think, almost 10 minutes without a basket, and it just felt like it gave them the breathing room they needed. Lance Jones is weird.
That picture right there says it all, right?
Lance Jones is kind of like another Lance in Lance Stevenson, where sometimes he shoots and you're like, no, and then it goes in, you're like, yes.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy. I think sometimes he's overly aggressive, even though I think Matt Painter wants him to be that way. That was a really big shot. And I think goes overlooked because you had Edey and Lawyer and Smith do what they did in that game. But I thought Lance Jones hit the biggest shot of the afternoon.
Love that play, by the way, brought to you by one of our more loyal sponsors, Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Love-HVAC.com. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number for Love Heating and Air that will treat you like family. 4 generations deep now, family-owned business right here in central Indiana, and 24-hour on-call maintenance. Think about that next time that you feel how cold it is outside, and you think, what if the furnace went out at 2 in the morning? Love Heating and Air would be there for you. Love-HVAC.com, Derek.
You want to talk Pacers next?
Sure.
All right, we'll do a little Pacers, get into our quick hits, and still Chateau Kitchen's Bader Bobley. Last show of 2023. It's Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Stick around.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at IUPUIJags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Bailey & Wood presents Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Happy holidays. Thanks so much for watching us, whether it's on ISC Sports Network or YouTube, podcast, so you can't even see us right now. Twitch.
Which is probably good, because then you can't see the snot rocket.
I think Caleb is the only person that watches on Twitch, but we do have a Twitch channel if you're twitching.
Caleb twitches if he calls and you don't answer.
Yeah, he does. I twitch when I see Caleb's number. No, I'm just kidding. We love Caleb here on the show. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah to Caleb. They've got one of the, like my buddy Stolman, they've got the split household. They got the Christmas tree and the menorah up at the same time, and you get the best of both worlds.
That's cool.
I was always jealous of the my half Jewish, half Christian friends because it felt like they got it basically all month. Let's talk Pacers. Lost to one of the worst teams in the league against Washington, then one of the best in Minnesota during a 1-3 road trip, and they followed that up coming back home. And we're taping this right now on Tuesday, losing on Monday night to the Clippers, and really what was a one-sided game where they gave up it's weird that the Pacers are at the point now, Jake, where they give up $150, and you're like, yeah. Like, 151 points in an NBA game is an astonishing number of points to give up.
I watched last night, and, admittedly, when James Harden is one of those players, and I'm not a huge James Harden fan.
Me neither. No one is.
When he gets hot, though.
Yeah. He's doing the snow angel.
I mean, it was pretty impressive.
He was cooking. I mean, it was kind of the sum of all fears for the Pacers because their big issue is they don't have wing defenders, especially with Nembhard out, and you've got three of the best wing players really in NBA history all on the same team, like Paul George and Kawhi, and I mean it's
Kawhi Leonard's
it's a loaded team.
Ability to score in traffic in the mid range is really amazing.
I mean, all those guys are really gifted players. Pacers are giving up 127 points per game. That's what they're averaging. The median NBA defense gives up it's a different era, right? But 117, 118 points. I mean, they're by far the worst defense in the league. It's them in Washington, basically, and then there's a big gap.
Derek, the player in the league that is perfect for Indiana. If the Pacers are looking at it and they're going, okay, we have really good pieces here. We have cap flexibility. We have assets that we could move out if we need to create even more space. We need a guy that can be a running mate with Halliburton. We need a guy that can defend and can score on the wing and hit some outside shots. You know who that player is? Who's a free agent at the end of the year? Player option.
OG?
No,
hit me.
Close.
Siakam?
One letter higher. Not OG.
Boji. Goji. Noji. LMNMNOP.
First letter.
First letter. O. OP.
Yep. PG.
Paul George?
Yes.
Oh.
Paul George, who has a player option at the end of the year and has publicly said that there are times with Halliburton that he made him nostalgic for Indiana. If I'm Kevin Pritchard, I go back and go, look, let's do a make good here.
Yeah, I would be.
He's going to be 33 years old.
Fascinated if that happened.
He is a perfect fit for what Indiana
It'd be
needs.
the most interesting thing to ever happen to an Indianapolis sports franchise, I would say. Like, sign me up for that, just to see the fan reaction of what would happen.
People would love it.
But yeah, I mean, his skill set. Look, Paul George is one of those guys. You can say whatever you want about Paul George. His skill set would immediately fit any NBA team.
Let me ask you this: what is the Y for ISTY?
ISTY, tourney.
But it's not an in-season. It's not
in-season tourney.
But it's in-season tournament.
I know, but for short, you say in-season tourney or ISTY. It's a thing. People say
it's not a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah.
No,
it's a thing.
Show me one place where that's been used.
Something else I'm a little worried about: Tyrese Halliburton's scoring numbers and the turnover numbers.
Correct.
Again, like
Halliburton to me looks like a player now that's starting to force things.
I'm answering tweets last night, and people are like, "Pacers, they're in a really bad spot. They're not fun to watch anymore. They suck. The season's not going well." And I'm like, maybe I'm just getting old, Jake. It's 82 games. You have not only a bad week, you could have bad 2 weeks. You have a bad month. Right. It's 82 games. So I'm just not like I don't really get into the high highs and low lows. And I think the Pacers are just hitting a low low after immediately hitting a low low after a high high. And I think that's where they are. Let's get to our quick hits. The Michael Pittman Jr. hit.
That led to that's your. Oh, I thought that was like your.
It led to a suspension, and Pittsburgh media seems to be defending it. And I think sometimes these hits are black and white, where you say, "Hey, what's the defensive back supposed to do?"
Derek,
that to me was
it is
not
pretty
black and
clear
white.
When the NFL comes out and goes, "There's a pattern here, and as a result, we are suspending this player without pay for the rest of the year."
Yeah, there's a track record there. I mean, I don't know. I'm not just saying that because we're in Indianapolis and it was our player who got hurt, but I thought the fine was due and the suspension absolutely was due. Rest in peace to Jeanette Holder. She is better known as the Indy 500. Well, we're not ready for that yet. We're doing quick hits.
I know, but
the Indy 500 quilt lady. Did you know Jeanette?
Did she pass?
Yeah.
I did not. I knew I had met her once, yes.
91 years old. So she had a rich and fulfilling life. Since 1976, she gave Lone Star JR a hand-stitched red, white, and blue quilt after he won the 500, and she's made 40 of those to the race victors since, and even one for President Jimmy Carter at one point.
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. So, part of the culture.
One of the great stories. Go ahead, and then
I was going to say part of the culture of the Speedway has nothing to do with the drivers. It's the yellow shirts and the cookie lady and the quilt lady.
Correct.
And you know what I mean? Like you have all these like characters.
The unofficial traditions.
The Speedways. Yeah. The alley cats who are in Gasoline
the dogs
Alley.
of Mussman.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's part of what makes it such a special place. Thought this was important to know, especially if you're a college-age student. IUPUI. Sorry, we're going to get to IUPUI. IUPD is not outright arresting IU students anymore for marijuana possession. This would have been helpful 20 years ago.
Why?
The officers made no arrest for marijuana or related paraphernalia possession during the fall 2023 semester, according to a report from the Bloomington Herald-Times. According to IUPD crime logs from August to December, all incidents of marijuana or paraphernalia possession were either referred to university officials for review or remain open cases. The report noted that IUPD had already moved to, quote, an agency that cites individuals for marijuana use or possession with a summons rather than conducting an outright arrest. So that's good. I'm glad that people like me paid the price so future generations could not have to deal with that.
Just when you got fat on macaroni and cheese?
Yeah. It was an $800 fine. I had PTD, so at least pretrial diversion because I had a clean record. So they didn't pop me for that. But yeah, it was on my birthday, and
And what were you doing? You were hitting the.
Yeah.
How'd you get caught?
We didn't do any jaboos or anything, so we didn't.
Any what?
If you took a dryer sheet and you put it in a toilet paper holder, you blow the smoke through that, and then it would kind of mask the marijuana scent. So if you were smoking indoors, that's what you would do. But we didn't do that. We just smoked in the room. It wafted out through the doors. An RA called the police, and they came. And
the RA knocked you out?
I think so. We were listening to Pearl Jam's Evolution was playing, I remember, and I hear on the door, and I looked through the peephole, and it was our RA, Gene, and two cops. Actually, I think it was Rachel. I think Rachel was the RA that time. Yeah.
So Rachel got her tuition paid
and we didn't fight or anything. Like my roommate and I, Dan, were just like, they're like, all right, guys, we know what's going on in here. Hand it over. So we just gave everything over, and they didn't take us down to the station or anything, but we were arrested.
How many arrests did Derek get in college?
Well, actually, yeah, let's go. We'll go with one.
Oh, were there more?
That's fine. No, I don't want to talk about it.
When the police were trying to figure out who the bad guy was and they saw Derek, they did this.
Yeah, there you go. That's better. Actually, let's get that in post. Like I'm a working professional now with a really respected legacy here in Indianapolis, so I don't want to divulge. Some of that's public record. Some of it's been expunged. But 3, 2, 1. So yes, Jake, let's talk IUPUI basketball.
Okay, let's do that.
Get our IUPUI Jags reports. Final non-conference game inside the jungle needed extra time to determine a winner. Unfortunately, women's hoops fell short to Eastern Michigan in an overtime heartbreaker, 84-74. Katie Davidson, a bright spot. She continues to lead the charge for the Jags. She put up 22 and 7. And Jasmine Turner returned to the lineup, had 8 points and 4 boards. IUPUI on the road this week at South Florida on Wednesday. And women's hoops will not be back at home until the new year, January 4th, when they
How about
host
the men's
Detroit
highlights,
Mercy.
which we're watching?
Men's nearly overcame a 13-point second-half deficit before falling to Lindenwood, 73-67. It's always Jalen Counter. I feel like we bring him up every single week. Season high for him, 23 points. He had 13 of 14 at the charity stripe. DJ Jackson added in 14 in his first start of the season. Jags hosting Defiance on Thursday at the Coliseum at 7. And then following the Christmas holiday, they will be back in action December 29th. Foam finger, just like Jake has right there.
That's right.
To the first Hundo fans against Detroit
Right
Mercy.
here.
And on the 31st against Cleveland State, which is blanket day or blanket night. First 50 fans get a blanket. In addition, kids grades K through 8 can receive a free ticket with an adult ticket for those games at the end of the month.
Cool.
And single game
And
tickets. So basically,
fabulous place to watch a game. Love
buy
the
one, get one.
Coliseum.
IUPUIJags.com. Tickets on sale for basketball at Ticketmaster and all winter sports, IUPUIJags.com.
I love the Coliseum.
We'll come back, wrap up the show next. Chateau Kitchen's Bite or Bull Bleep, and some parting thoughts on some great Christmas gifts when we return. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgages in a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgages in a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for a final time. Bailey and Wood presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. What'd you ask Santa for Christmas?
You know, Derek, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I
Is
just
there something like socks or something that you always get?
Yeah, well, in the Query household, all family pets. So my parents' cat now is Tom.
Yeah.
Tommy. So when you get a gift from Tom, it's socks or underwear.
Mm-hmm.
To which my
I like that
dad
tradition.
every year. I've told you this. You open it up, and then my dad, what'd you get there? Well, it's from Tom. Oh, Tom got you the unmentionables. That's always my dad's line.
Boy.
What's that?
Your dad has so many of those traditions.
So those are always taken care of by the family pets. I'll be honest, Derek. I'm very lucky in the fact, I don't mean this like to sound sappy or whatever. I couldn't think of anything I need or want. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of with you. It's mostly socks. For me, and now being a dad, it's about James. Like Christmas is just kind of another day.
Right.
It's more about watching the other people around you kind of enjoy it. But happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all of you, and thanks so much for spending another year with us two bozos here on this show. Chateau Kitchen's Bite or Bull Bleep, brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens. Before and after pictures at Chateau Kitchens on Instagram, at Chateau Kitchens on Facebook as well. They can take care of any interior project, just like they've done a kitchen, a bathroom, a basement for me at my home, and they do beautiful, magnificent work. So give them a call in 2024 for any of the projects that you have coming up. Colts will miss the playoffs at 10-7. Bite or Bull Bleep?
No, bullshit. They're in.
If they lose to the Texans, it's certainly possible. I don't think it'll happen, so I'll say no. But I mean, it's not Bull Bleep that it's possible, but I think if they go 10-7, they're going to get in. Because I think they're going to beat the Texans. I think they're going to beat Houston at home. And if they win that game,
could they be in a situation, Derek, where it doesn't matter? Could they go in? Is it possible they go into that week with?
Yeah, I think it is. If all these other teams lose their next two games, but I don't think it's likely that game is going to have stakes. Almost certainly. Statement number 2: the Pacers will make a trade before the end of the season. Buy it or Bull Bleep?
I'll buy that.
Too.
I don't know if it's a massive one, but I'll buy
it. Because they shopped around. They tried to trade, I think, Hield and make a big swing in the offseason, and nothing materialized. Now, you can't formulate these things out of thin air, but especially with as bad as defensively they've been, I think a trade is going to happen. Final statement: Christmas should have football. Buy it or Bull Bleep?
You're not going to like my answer.
Well, it's going to be the same as mine if it's going to be yours.
Bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, wait. So you think Christmas should have football?
I think it should not.
No, me too. So you buy it.
What was the statement?
Christmas should have football. Yeah, you're right. Bull Bleep. Sorry. It's an NBA holiday.
Not only that, here's the thing.
We have 30 seconds, so I don't want it to be a long query
Christmas
thing.
is about opening the gifts with your family and then spending the day with them. By 4 or 5 o'clock, I get it. If you want to do like a night game, maybe. Yeah. But the NFL is a much longer commitment, and people start going early. No, spend the day with your family.
Christmas is about watching the Knicks and then opening up presents. Thanks to our great sponsors, Chateau Kitchens.
Or if you're the opponent, the president.
Chili Water Brewing, Bailey and Wood Financial Group, Love Heating and Cooling, IUPUI Athletics. I don't think I missed anybody. Bye. Have a great New Year, holidays. They're cutting our mics.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at iupuyjags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.